My name's Kale Wallace, and I was born in 1990, December 13th, to a wonderful family, perfect, a regular American family. Everything was perfect, I thought, 2010, my parents got divorced, kind of, I don't know, it just threw me off. I didn't know what was going on. At 12, I found a bottle of Lortabs, and my mom or dad's cabinet, didn't know what they were. I ate a couple of those, ended up eating all 60 of them that night, and overdosed in the backyard the first time. And then I didn't touch them for like a year because I was scared. Well, then the second time, this girl hits me up that I, smoked weed with and stuff. She hits me up, she's like, hey, I was asking her for Lortabs, I think, or hydrocodone. And she's like, oh, all I can get's Oxycontin. And we each buy one for each of us. And right then and there is when it started. I did mine, he did half of his. She said, I'll only do half, they're strong. I did my whole one, and then turned around and paid my friend for that half of his other one. I was hooked ever since then. Ever since then, I haven't stopped. Oxycontin has just like ruined my life up until they started making them different, and then I switched on to heroin. And I mean, all this other time I'm doing other drugs too, anything I can get my hands on. Basically, I'm just a junk box. Like, whatever I have, I put in my body, I consume. Any drugs at all, doesn't matter.
I'm Dr. Warren with Vibrant Life Oklahoma, and I first met Kale. I got a phone call from his friend, I think it's Cayman, and I was traveling through Tulsa. I agreed to stop and talk to him. He told me he had a friend that was in real trouble and was addicted to heroin, and so it was probably 10 o'clock at night or so, and I stopped to see them, and I'll never forget it because I sat down in their apartment and there was drug paraphernalia everywhere, there of every kind. And so I'm sitting in a chair, and Kale's just sitting across from me, and his friend's doing most of the talking because Kale was not in shape to really talk. And he was just telling me that, it was time for his friend to make change in his life, and he needed, some help. And Kale wasn't really, completely down with it. And so I said, hey, when you get, closer to being ready to make a change, give me a call, and I'll, come and see you and see if we can work it out. And so several weeks went by, and really, I wasn't sure if I'd ever hear from him again.
My best friend from before I ever left town, his name was Cayman, and I lived with him for maybe 2 years in a house. We were roommates. When I got back in town from moving after 3 years, he had an empty apartment and he let me live in it for a little bit, and he told me he'd get me help. He told me about this place called Vibrant Life. I was like, whatever, it's not gonna help me. I've been to 30 places. I've been to every rehab basically in Florida, California. I've been to so many states for rehab. I've done everything I can. I'm just gonna be a junkie for the rest of my life. Like, he told me about it, and that I believe something totally different. Before I met Dr. Warren, about 2 years before, I'd been to multiple detoxes, and they just kind of dose you up with a bunch of Suboxone or methadone, a bunch of Vicodin, and they keep you drugged up for however many days your insurance will basically like cover. After that, they kick you out, and then they send you to rehab. But they send you to rehab sick from the meds that they give you in detox. So it's like, how are you supposed to help these people when they're still sick, Well, Dr. Warren came over and he gives me this box of these pills, 5 or 6 different bottles, and he says, take this, make sure you drink this. This is what's gonna help the most. It was really weird this time, in the other detoxes, I kick and I'm sick still, and and then I'm sick again. But with him, he comes over and he gives me this certain mixture of things, and the kicks, they slowed down after the first day. The aching and the shaking, and the sweating and the goosebumps, the headaches, the motivation was still not quite there. But I was only on day 1 or 2 whenever I started to feel better. But as day 3 came, which was usually like the worst day possible, 3 and 4 are like the worst for me. And then I started going back downhill towards the other direction, getting better. By day 3, I was almost done detoxing. My name's Kale Wallace, and today is about day 4.5, and I haven't had withdrawal symptoms in about a day and a half, and I really never thought it was possible to completely quit doing opiates.
The first day I saw him, he was incoherent. When he was talking, he wouldn't make sense. In fact, his friend would sit on the couch and say, Kale, shut up, don't talk, just listen. You've done all the talking in the world your whole life, now you're gonna listen. He was difficult to manage. He was even more difficult to communicate with. There were all kind of reasons that, certain things were happening in his mind. But the one deal that Kale and I made was we don't apologize to one another. I'm gonna show up no matter what, and I'm gonna treat him, and he's gonna do what he's supposed to no matter what. And we're gonna get through this. And to his credit, he never apologized because he did what he was supposed to do. And I think I showed up, so that worked out. Because with opiate withdrawal, it can be terrible. You can ache, you can shake, you sweat, you don't sleep, you have horrible stomach problems. And so the pain and the not sleeping and the aching and it's essentially the worst flu that you've ever had that simply gets worse every single day till about the 10th day is what happens if you're not being treated. And that's one of the reasons that people go back to it and have a difficult time stopping. Now that's just the physical side of it. Emotionally, they're unstable, they may cry, they may be happy, but everything in the world becomes a huge deal to them. So, I use a protocol where we treat their lack of neurotransmitters. When you take heroin, your dopamine increases about 10 times. When you stop taking it, it does not go back to normal. It goes down about 10 times. So everything that it would do for you, make you feel motivated, give you energy, kill pain, make you happy, it does the opposite when it's gone. So we do things to help increase that feeling of being able to tolerate the lack of heroin, essentially. And we use a lot of IV therapy to help with hydration, help them sleep, and all those things. And we got a really good outcome with Kale because he slept a lot for the first 1 to 4 days, which is miraculous, really, because when somebody's coming off of opiates, sleeping 2 hours is big for him, and much less sleeping for 8 hours, which he did really well. His pain levels were really good. So the progression from day 1 was that he was in a situation where it was no longer manageable at all. I mean, he was just laying there, As the days went by, probably the 3rd or 4th day, he was still, it was still difficult, but he was starting to get up and, walk a little bit and move. These people are mostly just bed rest at that point, just down, walk to the bathroom, walk outside for a minute. That's the extent of activity for him. He progressed each day in terms of coming off opiates.
Today's like day 13. I got the implant today. We just got back to Tulsa. It's been about a 24-hour trip there and back. Seeing people the way I used to act is just kind of disgusting almost. Still got one guy to work on.
Okay. Who's that?
Me. And then my little brother after that.
We did about the 10th day or 12th, I can't remember. We used a blocker called naltrexone with him that kind of helps settle down your urge to want that type of drug. And then the progression, was more emotional and of just sort of waking up and realizing he wants different things in life and kind of talking to him about those kind of things. And so about the 20th day, he got a job. He was detailing cars and doing some of those type of things and actually working and having normal, somewhat of a normal social life.
Okay.
Today's day 49 without opiates, and I started working yesterday.
How many hours do you work today?
I think like 7.5.
Okay, what time you got to be there? It's 9 o'clock at night and you got to be at work when?
7 tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Till 4 o'clock if I choose to, because I just kind of work my own hours. So
Okay.
whatever I want to do, I'm detailing cars, which I've done before. They offered me a full-time position yesterday.
So at this point, I've been treating him for around 70 days. And the future for Cale is number one, he had to understand what was driving this addiction or his desire to use heroin. And, you know, we went through a lot of different medical terms with him, but essentially, you know, it comes down to the things he consumes, the things he eats, the environment that he puts himself in.
76 days and no opiates or opioids. This is like amazing to me, honestly. I never thought I'd make it this far.
You know, from a medical standpoint, what will happen from here is he will continue on naltrexone for months into the future, and it's really just an insurance policy. It blocks the effect that opiate would have on you, helps with cravings and those kind of things, and he stays on a protocol of neurotransmitters to replace dopamine, serotonin, GABA. So going forward, he will continue with IV therapy to a lesser amount. And when you're going through withdrawals and you're trying to restore neurochemistry, the one thing that helps with that is going to be high dose IV therapy, because it competes for the receptor that opiates used to be on. When those receptors are left without any activity, they leave you in a place where you're craving and you're lost and with no energy. And so some of the therapies that we use in IV therapy, glutathione, high dose vitamin C, magnesium, D-L-phenylalanine, actually occupy those receptors and make you feel normal for months on end. Because when you come off opiates, you can spend months, 6 months, not feeling normal, and possibly you never felt normal to start with. And so this is one of the first times that he's really felt good without using heroin. You know, he started using it when he was like 15. He's 25 now. And so this is a whole new world for him.
I didn't have to go to rehab. I didn't have to go to detox, well, except for at my own home detox. By like day 10 or 12, I was like already putting in job application. Actually, by day 6 was when I put my first application in, because it's right down the street from my house, you know, and I didn't mind walking that far. Day 6, I put in my first application, but I had some trouble finding some jobs because I got, you know, a little bit of lack of motivation, because I started slowing down a little bit. I got on this big hype, you know, and slowed down a little bit, but, you know, things picked right back up, you know, like Dr. Warren could tell. You know, he comes over and he talks to me when I break down. Even if I'm not there, I call him, I break down and I'm not there. But I come back, he comes back and meets me, you know, because just, I don't know, life was just chaos, complete chaos. Like, the lifestyle is horrible when I look at it now.
So if you're out there watching Cale's story, okay, wondering if you can do this, don't worry. The reason that I took Cale's case was I knew that if this could be done, that your situation can be done no matter what else is going on. So if you're out there questioning whether you can do this or being opiate free is something that you can live, you know, I think everybody thinks they can detox from it, but almost everybody thinks that you can't live without it and not miss everything, okay? So if that's you, I promise you that, you know, I can help you with it. Cale's living without it, and a whole bunch of other people are too. So, you know, it's certainly a possibility for you. Give us a call, 918-342-9803.